Yeah.
Dead in the middle of little did we know.
I'm serious about mine. I'm so sincere.
Now at last I have seen a judgment of Solomon.
Welcome to Thought Crimes, everyone. This is your girl, Sincere.
Oh my God, it looks like here Eminem, Slim Shady, Skittles did a 254-minute freestyle that just murdered the game, allegedly. But JayZ, on the other hand, he drops a verse on someone else's album, and he doesn't even have an album coming out. And we're trying to figure out, or at least talk and ascertain as to why people did not care about the 12-minute freestyle from Eminem, Slim Shady, as opposed to the verse of JayZ on What's Free. Sin, what do you think about that?
What I think about it is that we already know that JayZ means way more to the culture and is more relevant than Eminem. I know a lot of people are going to be throwing their darts and also crying about us hating Eminem because a rich millionaire really needs their help. But anyway, getting back to the point, I do think that the people who created hip-hop, the people who really love hip-hop, whether you like JayZ or not, there's something that connects with you when he speaks. You know, he's talking about your community, whether people believe him all the way or not. You really feel that he's inspiring the young men and women, especially black kids, who are trying to fight against racism, fight past racism, trying to indulge in their own creativity, their own intelligence, creating companies, creating startup businesses. So I think like JayZ really speaks to that, and he even speaks to the segment that people think may just be ignoring him with their fingers in their ears. You know, you see 21 Savage right now and some of these other rappers actually take business serious and trying to venture off into other things. So I do think that's why when JayZ has a verse like What's Free, everybody's listening. Or when he had the verse on All the Way Up, when he talked about we're never going to let the elevator take what Prince put out and was trying to do down, or when he had that whole single on Major Keys. So I think when it comes to JayZ's voice in hip-hop, it resonates more, even to the point where the President Trump, you know, is dissing him, because let's be real, JayZ has more power than Eminem in the structure of what he's acquired on his own. Now Eminem can get busy. You know, you said he had a 12-minute freestyle, and I'm sure some people were feeling it, but he just doesn't resonate on the same level.
I think it's this. I just think the narratives are different, and people cannot relate to the narrative of Eminem right now. As a matter of fact, most people can't even put their finger on what the narrative of Eminem right now, because when you think about it, what is the narrative of Slim Shady right now? The narrative of JayZ right now is very relatable to most people who listen to him. The whole idea of being independent, fighting a system. Whether you believe JayZ is a part of the system or against the system, that's entirely up to you. But at the very least, the articulation of his narrative right now can even be debated. That's how much people can recognize his narrative, that even if they wanted to debate it, they can talk about it. Eminem narrative kind of falls flat on many people's ears, and again, like I stated, many people cannot recognize it. Then one could say Eminem, yes, he raps, he has syllables, lyricists, blah blah blah, but then at the same time, he's really not saying anything to resonate with the people when it comes to beyond the ears of, oh, I want to hear some Crooked Eye-ish, Tech Nine-ish type bars with a segment of hip-hop goers. Now some people may say, but Prince, you know, a lot of these new guys coming in, Lil Baby and them, I don't feel they're lyrically on par with any of these top rappers, so why is it there's a relatability factor there? Well, there's a couple things, to be honest with you, that happens generationally with all artists in any genre. Lil Baby, if we're talking about Gunna, if we're talking about some of these other guys, these guys are new, these guys have fresh energy, and at the same time, because they're new, there's a sense of inspiration and aspiration to them as well, which most people can always relate to the new guy on campus, the new girl on campus. What are they going to do? What is their potential? Where they're going to land, right? When you think about it, Eminem has been here for a while. He's disappeared. He's re-emerged. Part of his narrative was the kamikaze joint of I'm criticizing my critics, and then people was like, that kind of fell flat after a while. It was just completely unrelatable to a lot of folks. But the reason why a lot of people are taking to some of these newer guys is because they're just new in that sense. But JayZ's message and his narrative is, I think, far more extensively relatable to many people residing in hip-hop, the hip-hop critics, the hip-hop commentators, and many other people who have just been following a lot of things. And the fact that not only is he still in a sense of challenging a system or trying to move in his own direction, you gotta understand that JayZ in many essence has his foot in both worlds, because for a cross-generational crowd and audience, JayZ still evokes nostalgia for many hip-hop goers and many hip-hop listeners to an era that he's tied to, whether we're talking about loosely being tied to the Bad Boy era, having his name mentioned by Tupac, particularly a dinosaur relic era that was just, for the most part, Mad Max, and for him to survive and move forward and see him grow into a person culturally that we didn't get to see Tupac or Biggie Smalls grow into as well. That's a part of strengthening his narrative as well, that I think personally Eminem is not in the same bracket.
It's like what you said with JayZ. A little baby can be like, and it's not even for people who crying about pro-black and all this other shit that people get mad about, even though it's whatever. People can feel how they want to feel. But a little baby, let's say if he doesn't rock with other aspects of JayZ, he could be like, yo, I like what he's saying about business. And he's not really making it about lyrics. Like you said, JayZ's whole narrative these last couple of years have been more about ownership, empowerment. You know, I know my worth. The culture should know its worth, whether you believe him or not. But it's such a big thing that people are having either debates about whether they believe him or not, rocking with him all the way, you know, or saying, well, you know, I don't rock with him all the way and here's why. So there's a lot to put in there. When Eminem did try a narrative, because I know his Crybaby fans are going to say something, but they're going to be right to a degree. He tried a narrative when he tried the anti-Trump album. and a lot of people did not take well to that. Some people didn't believe him. But because the music wasn't good, they swept him all the way off the table. It wasn't even a dialogue of whether they believed him or not. The first thing was that the music was trash. Then he came out with Kamikaze, where it was clear cut about his narrative, anti-critics, crying about it, and then also, yo, I'm rapping and I'm against these rappers who can't rap, and then that's my second part of my narrative. That's a big thing. Now, it did cause a splash, don't get me wrong, and a lot of people did take interest in Kamikaze more so than whatever the album was, because nobody gave a crap about it. I can't even remember the name of it. That's how trash it was. But Kamikaze did give people more meat to just lash on. But it still isn't through the same lenses and fight as the JayZ narrative. It's more appealing because more people can join in. Some people don't want to join in about who can rap better, who's not. Some people can make an argument that you may not be the best lyricist, but if you put better music out or better albums or different things like that, then your music is still worthy of being mentioned and being known. But everybody can get into the narrative of ownership, being taken advantage of, knowing your self-worth. And those are the things that is actually the biggest narrative piece that we see out here right now, especially if we're talking about black culture and black people who are the driving force of this culture and this music. So that's why I think that even What's Free, verse by JayZ, was more noticeable than Eminem's 12-minute freestyle. And another thing is, too, even Trump sees a component as a competitor when he even mentioned JayZ, you know, or just like Trump mentioned LeBron, he came after all these people, Steph Curry. I think another thing that irritated Eminem, he's like, yo, you're mentioning all these people who are considered big icons in the culture of sports and music, but you didn't mention my name. Now, some people say, oh, that could have been, oh, Trump is just scared. No, sometimes people understand bosses.
Well, you know, and that's the thing about it. See, when you're talking about the narrative of Eminem, that doesn't go beyond his core demographic. And that's why a part of them were angry when we criticized his most recent efforts. We was fair to Kamikaze, But I did make a strong statement. I says, but beyond Kamikaze, what will be Slim Shady's narrative to keep him relating to people beyond his core demographic? Because that's who's really been carrying the legacy of Eminem as it stands right now. Look, even people are going back and reconsidering their original dissertations on Eminem, because they're saying, well, wait a minute, if I actually juxtapose him to the culture and where the culture is moving, even Trump, as you stated, he knows who to respond to. His team says, look, we're looking at the metrics. We're looking at the analytics. You say his name, it may kick up a little bit, but if you say this guy's name, if you take a shot at Michelle Obama, if you take a shot at Beyonce, if you take a shot at Jay-Z, you're going to resonate in the algorithm a lot further because of how deep and entrenched these people are into the culture and what they mean to the culture. And I think a part of the issue for rap right now in hip hop, and even some of the hip hop commentators who call themselves hip hop commentators, what they really are is just tea sippers. But I think the issue for many of them, the times that people were spending in a sense of trying to destabilize who means what to the culture, if we're talking about Nas, if we're talking about a JayZ, if we're talking about even some of the legends who've passed away, the Big L's and the Tupacs, the fact that you had people who are trying to rewrite the historical books on hip hop to try to change the narrative of how things really are, I think that's what's been a huge disservice to even the likes of Eminem really truly understanding where he's lacking in, because you kind of had, like I stated earlier, his core demographics really carrying him and trying to usurp guys in the culture, women and men in the culture, if we're talking about Lauryn Hill, who actually will always have a narrative that will still resonate to the general state of the culture. So the whole point is this, to be honest with you, I think right now, again, beyond his core demographic, I think a lot of people, they still cannot relate to Eminem. 12 minutes of what? He gave you Rap God. He said, I inspired the Hobsons and the Joyner Lucases. And again, even with those guys, their footing is not entrenched in the culture like you may think it is beyond Eminem's core demographics. And I think that's why Jay-Z, every time he makes a splash, is because it speaks to how deep his roots are fundamentally in the culture.
It's as simple. Black people drive the culture. It is what it is. It originated from us, and that's what it is. And don't get me wrong, Eminem has had great moments that even people in the culture did respect. And a lot of people say he's in the culture, whether you like him or not. And one can argue that, but, when he came out with the Eminem Show, that was a nice album. But also people have to remember, 50 Cent, Ja Rule, what took place there, that really, really put Eminem on the map for a lot of black people who really wasn't feeling the other music he made that white people loved and really pushed forward. So it is what it is. This is our opinion. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and also Facebook. We also have our own Patreon that you can check out to support us and support the TC movement. And also our PayPal. You can donate to us at thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com. Again, thoughtcrimes1984@gmail.com. Peace.
Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me.
Is that a challenge?
You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
White folks are nosy. They have specials. Nosy specials. Why does a bee make honey? You ain't a bee. Why do you give a fuck?
Where's the kaboom? There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
If he dies, he dies.